Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a press conference is addressing the helicopter crash near Terrace. Ellis Ross is making his way into federal politics, and the Kitimat RCMP are trying to find a missing man.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening. I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond for today. Back on Monday afternoon, a helicopter owned by Northern Escape Heliskiing crashed near Terrace, BC, and ended up taking the life of 3 people that were later identified as Italians, in addition to seriously injuring 4 others. As a result, yesterday saw a press conference be held at the Terrace Best Western's Chinook Room in the afternoon, where the president and general manager of Northern Escape Heliskiing, John Forrest, gave a statement expressing just how devastating this crash was for everyone involved.
It's a tough time for us right now. The guests who ski with us and the staff who work with us each season are very much our family. It's impossible to put into words the profound grief and sorrow that our guests and staff share right now. We hope you'll respect the privacy of those impacted at this extremely difficult time.
Forrest also went on to state during the conference that his business would be pausing their operations, but will likely end up getting back up and running properly at some point, although there wasn't an indication when that might be. Currently, the cause of the accident has not been discovered yet, but the company is working with the RCMP, WorkSafe BC, as well as the Transportation Safety Board to figure out what happened. The press conference also saw the reveal that all 4 of the injured people injured by the crash have been taken out of Terrace to get even higher level medical care. The local MLA for SKIDA has recently made a choice that will leave BC United without one of its most recognizable members. This past Monday saw quite the major revelation that would have a major impact in both the worlds of local BC politics as well as federal Canadian politics. Ellis Ross, the MLA representing SKIDA, is transitioning into the federal Conservative Party to run for the SKIDA-Bulkley Valley riding in next year's federal election, as initially announced by BC United. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the federal Conservatives, gave Ellis quite the formal introduction in a pair of rallies, with one of them happening in Terrace, and the other one took place in Prince Rupert. Ross later expressed in an interview just how he felt about his decision to make this big of a career move.
It's happy and sad, right? It's the same emotions I had when I had to make a decision to resign as Haisel Chief Councillor and then run as an MLA. You don't take these decisions lightly, but you do think about things larger than yourself. You think about people, you think about communities, you think about regions. In the MLA's case, I was thinking about the province, and now I'm thinking bigger issues that affect Canada as a country.
But even with his move to federal politics, Ross has made it clear he won't forget his roots and will continue to give whatever support he can to the BC United Party. And as for his position as MLA, he is set to remain in it, but only until the next provincial election, whatever that may be. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. The Kitimat RCMP recently discussed some incidents that took place not too long ago, as documented in their new weekly report. One such incident saw a pair of vehicles collide on Heisler Boulevard earlier in the morning, and when local officers arrived on the scene, one of those drivers had re-entered their vehicles and already left. While that driver did drop by the local Kitimat RCMP detachment eventually, they ended up getting a violation ticket for leaving the site of an accident early. One other case saw a hit-and-run happen where a vehicle's mirror was reportedly clipped while driving on Highway 37 by another vehicle going the other way, but the vehicle responsible for the offense in question ended up not being found, despite some extensive patrolling done by the RCMP. Metro Vancouver stated that an acrid odor that blanketed some parts of the region this past Sunday contained elevated contaminant levels but did not break pollution standards. The Regional Federation of Municipalities later said that it monitors emissions of particulates, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide from Burnaby's Parkland fuel refinery, and air quality objectives for the contaminants were not exceeded. Metro Vancouver said there weren't many complaints about odors related to the refinery on Monday, after getting more than 100 from residents during the weekend. It last said that the Burnaby Fire Department and the RCMP were informed about the odor, but no injuries were reported. Coming up next, a media event was held to promote the Guns N' Hoses game. What was once the largest employer of jobs in the Fraser Lake area has now closed its doors for good. The Fraser Lake sawmill that existed under the ownership of the West Fraser Timber Company has officially closed its operations due to them being unable to get access to economically viable fiber within the region. It's been reported that this closure will end up reducing the Western Fraser's capacity for Canadian lumber by 160 million board feet. Shane Breeden, the BC United candidate for Nechako Lakes, put out a statement offering support to the community and criticizing MLA John Rustad for lacking leadership and being unavailable to help prevent the closure. An annual hockey game held in the name of helping out kids and played out between Kitimat's finest first responders was very publicly promoted a few days ago. This past Monday saw the Tamatik Arena in Kitimat play host to a media availability event that would provide the general public a bit more information about this version of the Guns N' Hoses charity hockey game between Kitimat's firefighters and RCMP officers. The game had undergone a hiatus spanning a couple of years due to the COVID pandemic, but is said to have come back strong in 2023.
Had a great turnout. It was a great success. The fire department did win. They won 4-3. They managed to steal a point there, so that's still under investigation for that theft. We put in everything we can to investigate how that happened, and we're definitely going to try our best to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Last year's game managed to raise around $10,000 for the Kitimat Kidsport program, an organization that helps cover registration expenses and allows kids 18 and under to play whichever organized sport happens to be their favorite. And the date and time the game would be held on and starting at were reiterated at the event as well.
So it's happening February 10th. The doors open at 6 and the puck drop will be at 7 p.m.
The game will take place at the same arena as the media event, which was also home to a truly intense face-off between the mascots for both departments, Safety Bear and Sparky. People wishing to attend the game can get in by donating whatever they can. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. In the wake of a double-digit property tax hike, the Mayor of Vancouver's Budget Task Force has released its first report aimed at raising more money and recommending how taxpayer dollars could be better spent. One suggestion is to sell the naming rights for city facilities. As CTV's Isabella Zavarisi reports, it's an idea not all councillors support.
Hundreds of hours were spent on a report led by the Mayor's Budget Task Force, analyzing the City of Vancouver's spending habits, where it could cut back, and how it could improve.
Ultimately here, the goal is the financial well-being of the city.
The task force found some significant operational inefficiencies and made 17 recommendations to increase revenue, leasing empty office space, decreasing employee absentee rates, and selling naming rights on city assets, including hospitals and ice rinks.
Our ice rinks are a mess. They're in total disarray. And that would be an opportunity to partner with industry to get them to pay the maintenance and capital part and still get all the ice sheets you need.
The task force chair says increasing sponsorship could generate millions of dollars in revenue.
I'm super supportive. It happens in other jurisdictions. It happens in places like healthcare. I think it's an option we need to really look at.
Empty office spaces, for sure. More efficiency in how we run our properties and we manage them, for sure. Naming rights starts to get into a little bit of a gray area, and then selling off public assets is a hard no for me.
Confusion around the selling of non-core assets, including parks and community centers, raised questions from councillors. The report's chair, in turn, pushing back on that suggestion.
Can you just straight out, for the record, indicate if that is the case, and if there was any discussion around selling any parkland or any community centers?
I go to the theater, I go to Hillside Rink. There was no discussion about selling those assets.
A committee will now work on implementing the recommendations while making sure the public can give feedback. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is supposed to see rain and a low at around 5 degrees or so. The Terrace Kitimat area is set to deal with some rain showers or wet flurries, and their low down at 1 degree. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will be getting periods of light snow and a low down at -5 degrees. On the north coast, the next week for them should entail pretty much all rain and nothing else, with the high jumping from 10 degrees to 7 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their upcoming week should also see mainly just rain and maybe some wet flurries, with a high going from 6 to 3 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, their next week or so will see a mix of both flurries as well as showers, and a high bouncing between 0 and 7 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there are slippery sections, utility work, and compact snow, plus the Usk Ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 35 and 118 have some slippery sections too. Highway 37 has slippery sections too, while also having compact snow as well as various bits of maintenance and even fog patches. 37A has compact snow as well, some fog patches on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections of its own. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a BC community is attempting to overcome a doctor shortage. Welcome back. A BC community is taking an unusual step to deal with a doctor shortage. It's currently exploring the idea of running its own medical clinic, including having the doctors and nurses as city employees. CTV's Rob Buffum has more on this.
Construction of this Colwood Medical Clinic has been complete since last October. It's ready for patients. All it needs is one key thing.
We need doctors to open.
The fast-growing city currently doesn't have any family doctors taking new patients.
The fact is that we have 22,000 people here in Colwood, and we do not have a family doctor. We have 0 family doctors.
That is terrible. I think we need doctors. I think we need people to look after us and make sure we're in good health.
As somebody that's going to be soon raising a family, it's a concern for me because, like, where do I go? How do I take care of the people that are close to me?
City Council is now stepping into the breach, trying to be innovative, voting last night to explore options for running this clinic itself, with nurses and doctors as city employees. The goal, making it more attractive for doctors to work here by potentially taking over tasks like administering payroll and HR duties.
They're good at doctoring, so let them doctor. We're good at administration. Let us administer.
In order to attract and retain long-term doctors to the city, its mayor says the key could be giving them benefits and the big shiny object of pensions.
The mayor says he's had a couple good meetings with the minister over the general proposal, but the pension part of the plan hasn't been well received.
Now, lots of pushback. It's worth exploring, and we're going to continue to explore it because I think that has merit.
The Ministry of Health told CTV in a statement today it remains engaged and available to work with Colwood on options for improving primary care in the city. As for when this clinic will open, there's no timeline, although it's hoped in the coming weeks doctors will be enticed to set up shop here. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Colwood.
It's been a painful few months for students and parents since a Port Coquitlam school burnt to the ground in a suspicious fire. And as CTV's Martin McMahon reports, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's next.
It's been 3 months since a devastating fire left this school nothing more than a pile of rubble, and the cleanup of the debris is still underway at the site of Hazel Trembath Elementary, which parents say was more than just a school.
I mean, it's devastating still. Every time we come to the park or every time we bring our kids to the nearby playgrounds, I mean, we have to look at it.
It makes for difficult watching for Kim O'Neill, whose daughter is in grade 2. It was bad enough losing the school, but as the Education Ministry considers its long-term plans, the possibility the school won't actually be rebuilt weighs heavily. And that's what this petition is all about, ensuring a prompt rebuild.
We need this school here. The school was here for a reason. It was a need to the community way back when, and it is, if anything, even more of a need to the community now. So not rebuilding and dispersing our children to other elementary schools in the area is just not an option for us.
O'Neill fears the ministry will choose to add another wing to an existing school or build a new, larger school on a different site. We asked School District 43 for an interview, but only got this statement, which reads in part, "The ministry makes decisions on building schools, and so far no decision has been made. At this time, School District 43 is providing the ministry with as much information as possible." Similarly, Education Minister Rachna Singh was not made available for an interview, but the ministry provided this statement. The district is currently working to determine the best path forward. For parents, including Daniel Castrillon, the possibility the school won't be rebuilt is difficult to take.
It's fairly clear, and it's been fairly clear from the beginning that we want the school back. I want my daughter to go back to school where she knew her school.
Demolition should be done by April, but it's what comes next that has these parents worried. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Port Coquitlam.
Today is Bell Let's Talk Day, a day that spotlights the importance of mental health for Canadians. Perhaps the biggest development in Canadian mental health care over the past year has been the creation of a new 3-digit crisis hotline. As CTV's Pauline Chan tells us, it's been receiving about 1,000 calls a day.
988 Suicide Intervention Crisis Line.
Melody Grant is one of the counselors answering calls on the new hotline.
I was actually surprised. There was quite a high number of callers, kind of right from the beginning.
Who is calling?
We're certainly seeing folks that are in just very significant immediate stress, and so it's working with those folks on alternatives to keep them safe in the moment. But we also have a number of parents, friends, family members that are just calling because they don't know what to do.
The first time I wanted to access crisis lines, I was a young kid.
Al Raimondo is a long-time mental health advocate who once tried to take their own life at the age of 13. Now they serve as a consultant on the development of the 988 Suicide Intervention Crisis Line.
I think I would have called it, and I think it would have really, really helped me. And even recently, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I would have loved to have something like this.
Raimondo says their number one priority in the creation of 988 was simplicity and ease of access. Chief Medical Officer for the hotline, Dr. Allison Crawford, says the service is a network of crisis centers across Canada.
So when they do call or text, they'll get a trained responder.
Each call can take anywhere from half an hour to an hour and a half, and so far in January, 988 has received more than 18,000 calls.
It's not a mental health navigation service, but as part of that interaction, if the person who's calling or texting wants additional resources, then they can refer them to other to resources in their area. And that's also one of the really important things about the service, that when you call or text, you're actually routed to a responder closest to your home. So they're familiar with your community and the things that you need and that are available to you.
Raimondo has been a supporter of Bell Let's Talk Day since the beginning.
I was so excited about seeing all the stigma reduction. And one of the pieces that has always been missing for me is like, okay, so because of Bell Let's Talk Day, I want to talk to somebody. And that next step was not always the clearest. I think with something like 988, now that next step is clear.
I'm glad that you've called out.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets pre-closure. The Canadian dollar is down 3/100ths of a cent, the price of gold is down $13, oil is up 97 cents, natural gas is up 8 cents, aluminum is up $70. In Toronto, the TSX is up 16.71 points, the Venture Index is up 0.02, in New York, the Dow Jones is up 22.25, and the Nasdaq is up 130.06. Still ahead is rare footage of an underwater animal fight. Welcome back. Now to some rare underwater video of an epic battle between a seal and an octopus just off of Vancouver Island. Captured during a scuba dive in Nanoose Bay, An octopus is shooting ink while being chased by a harbor seal. This video, posted on YouTube by Scuba Max, shows the battle between the seal and the giant Pacific octopus going on for a couple of minutes. In the end, the seal rips off one of the octopus's tentacles and swims away. But don't feel too bad for the octopus, though. It should be able to grow back the lost arm by the spring or so. Mounties in Prince George are investigating another shooting from Monday morning that happened in a homeless encampment. RCMP said they got a report of a man with a gunshot wound in Moccasin Flats, and that man has been hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Jennifer Cooper, the media relations officer for the Prince George RCMP, said that they have increased police presence in the area after noticing an increased level of violence occurring around that encampment. This is now the second incident to take place at Moccasin Flats after police responded to another shooting back on Friday, sending another man to the hospital with more serious injuries. That's all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.